Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Suncor Presents the Walrus Talks Youth Leadership. And before we do anything else, please join me in welcoming Elder Paul Daniels from Stoney Nakoda Territory.
Welcome. Hello, everybody. We welcome you to Treaty Territory for coming in, enjoy your life and enjoy your time and enjoy your education. You know, I thought myself, I never learned education myself until I was treaty. No. So we all rise and let's say grace for the Creator. Ha dewaka. Ha nanga ha Ksenia Mimoto. Ichi chipabi chance human kuchen roska nen yung gag nene in chen nations. Lay the house you edig chap tat makuchen to hang kan ye anustami hele. Makuchen the tata you people see you. Ons baby got nangushi on taught a day the house he wants paint a care of Colin Najimini. When I have said the house he on it by Najim, Sunday Bones. You see nothing you out you. I couldn't taught you out when you hung out in the you. Snizibinago, Nana to some in the Cabo, still Nagushi, you today niche. Today is you watching Sababu State among Kutan, you again check you in the Nazi. Namaning to see you, doubt, see you. Also watching Sababi, you hosting Sabishom and you see Yamiat. Hi, Tiaka, you. Once baby or Tizabi, no, not out some Kutan, you. But I try you won't speak to him, China, and they also know Nigabo teacher. Hani and Charlie, you want to. I will people who 90 Nazi. Then I those you are dig jab tan is ready jab ostination and don't tag Nazi. How man could look of Skangway when they say the house you. You didn't think she tells you, Jesus Christ, amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Elder Daniels. We're always grateful to be here in the community, and as always, I am grateful to be home. Welcome again to Suncor Presents the Walrus Talks Youth Leadership. My name is Shelley Ambrose. I'm the Executive Director and Publisher of The Walrus. I'd like another very special welcome to their honors, the Lieutenant Governor of Alberta, Lois Mitchell, and Doug Mitchell, friends and strong supporters of the Walrus, strong Albertans, strong Canadians, strong believers in the Canadian conversation. Thank you for joining us. I just want to say before we get going is if your chair is in a place where you can't see this podium because of a pole, feel free to move yourself and your chair to somewhere where you can see, because everything happens at this podium. So if you can't see it, you won't see the talkers. This little optimistic project called The Walrus started 15 years ago. It started as a magazine, and now it has a magazine, but it does lots and lots of other things. It does lots of things with the same mandate, which is to create forums for Canada's very complex conversation. We think that conversation is necessary, and so at The Walrus it takes many forms. In a print magazine, at thewalrus.ca, on your phone. We have the Walrus books, the Walrus podcasts. We do events like this across the country called the Walrus Talks. But no matter where the Walrus is or how you consume it, we hope you embrace our commitment to be independent and to bring together interesting and interested people who care about the issues that matter. We pride ourselves on creating fact-based journalism. I often say now, we used to just say journalism, but because that's what we thought it was. But now we have to say fact-based journalism because apparently there is another kind. We have real live human fact checkers. We have an editorial fellowship program. We've trained almost 300 editors over the last 12 years, and they go out into the world and try to spread Walrus fact-checking standards everywhere that they go. So we're trying to help the situation that we find ourselves in. So hands up if you read the Walrus on your phone, in print, anywhere on your eyelid. I don't care where you read it. Thank you very much for doing that. Hands up if you're a subscriber. Those are my people. Those are my people. Thank you for subscribing. I see some other Walrus here. That's what we call ourselves, Walrus. It's not a word, but that is what we call ourselves. So I have a couple of board members here today. Chetan Lakshman, it's right here from Shaw, and Karen Prentice is right there. They're on the Walrus Foundation board, which is a national board. So this event tonight is our 104th Walrus Talks. Yes, I'm very old. 104 of these. So hands up if you've ever been to a Walrus Talks before. Welcome back. Hands up if you've been a Walrus Talker. I see a few of you. And hands up if you're new. Never heard of us, have no idea why you're here. Let's welcome the new people. Yay. Okay. So there's no way we can do the work that we do. We are just 28 people in a basement. There's no way we can do the work that we do without our partners. And one of our strongest, longest partnerships is with Suncor. So we're very grateful to Suncor for supporting tonight's Walrus Talks. We're also very grateful to our national, yes, Suncor, yay. Yay. We are also very grateful to our national partners at Shaw, Labatt, and TD, who are with us everywhere we go. And we're glad that you're here, yay, Shaw, Labatt, and TD. We're so glad that you're here with us because there's a lot to talk about and a lot to share. This conversation that we're going to enjoy tonight is a vital one to all of us. And the Walrus Talks is a chance to be of open mind, to hear from some very smart leaders, and to think about the future and hear a different perspective. The format is designed to bring you many perspectives, and the goal is to get us all, when we walk out of this room, thinking, I never thought of it that way. That's really the only goal. And in this way, we've been proud for many years to partner with Inspire. This week, Calgary is playing host to the Inspire Awards, which is an annual award ceremony that celebrates the journey and accomplishments of 12 extraordinary First Nations, Inuit, and Métis individuals. So we're really happy to be here as part of the activities leading up to this special event. So hands up if you're going to the Inspire Awards. Excellent. That's a great group. I hope you have a wonderful week. So here's how the Walrus Talks works. Each talker has 7 minutes each. They know this. Yes, they do. Each of them will come up and introduce themselves. We keep the lights on, so please keep that program that you're sitting on in your hand. The front is in speaker order, and the back has all of their bios on the program. If you'd like to know a little bit more about them, I'm not introducing them. They are going to introduce themselves. And then you'll have a lot to talk about with them, and all of you are invited to the post-talks reception, which will happen in the lobby just outside those doors. So just before I let them get underway, I would like to thank each of them in advance. Thank you to Max Fineday, who is the Executive Director of Canadian Roots Exchange. Thank you to Cree Elder Doreen Spence. Thank you to Gabrielle Fea, co-CEO and co-founder of Assembly of 7 Generations. Thank you to Daryl Kootenay, co-founder, Nakota Youth Council, and faculty member at the Banff Centre for Indigenous Leadership. Thank you to Ava Grayeyes, who is an actress, starring role in Indian Horse, a film based on the book by Richard Wagamese, and she is also a SHAD Fellow. And thank you to Jessie Thistle, who is a history PhD candidate at York University. And thank you all for coming. Let us begin.
Marg Anak nitotamak nasiga sinkiskao pisimuasa se gwawi kasko tsinia na goa tseko tsinia e gwahaya sipiwina wako tsinia. Mamotawi mau. Inaskuma. Mio kisagawanot. Friends and relatives, I actually don't have time to translate, so I'm just going to jump right into it. No, I'm just kidding. I thanked our kind and loving Creator for giving us this day. Talked about how I come from the Sweetgrass First Nation, where the cutest Creve boys come from, and that we are blessed to be here to talk about these important things like youth leadership. And I'm so struck by all the incredible young people that I see out in the crowd. I think they deserve a round of applause. Absolutely. I see my friends from the Waterhen Lake Cree Nation. I just want to give a special shout out to, absolutely, always good to see people from home here. I'm here to talk about youth leadership, but in that same way, I'm here to talk about what being a good ancestor looks like, something that's very important for Indigenous people. When I think about the many times that I've been uncled this year, in fact, and this is no word of a lie, I was uncled again this morning. My cousin gave birth at 5 o'clock this morning. And I think, okay, you gotta stop clapping, I got 7 minutes here. When I think about what they're going to say about me as their ancestors, someone who came before them, when I think about where will Adonis Finde, who was born just this morning, where will he be 27 years from now, when I'm 50, oh my God, 4? Wild to think about. Yeah. No offense to people who are older than 54. Some of my best friends are older than 54, And I think about what sort of world we're going to leave for Adonis. And I think about the statistics that I won't get into because we are all too familiar with them. My people, Niwakamagan. So often, it is said that we fill the jails. And too often, it is our names on the tombstones, instead of in the classrooms, instead of at our lodges, our ceremonial places, instead of in the workforce. Where will he be at 27? That's what I found myself thinking this morning. It is as the executive director of Canadian Roots Exchange, a national nonprofit organization that works to bring young people together, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, through youth gatherings, through grassroots leadership development, through engagements in First Nations communities to show that the reserve isn't that place where the silliness of stereotypes too often touches. When Canadians think that those are places of desperation, destitution, drinking, drugs, we know that not to be true. Friends and relatives, and for the ones who are on their phones right now, you can go ahead and like us on Facebook if you're going to be on your phone. I'm just kidding. When I think about our participants, those who I'm so blessed to work with right across this country, I get that sense of hope. I'm an eternal optimist. Some people call me foolish. I prefer optimist, but I have hope for the idea that we can set right this relationship that has gone so wrong for so long. I have vision that comes from young people who I speak to who say, we are angry with Canada. That's the truth. We are angry with Canada. This great defender of human rights, this internationally recognized good guy who always does the right thing, we know not to be the case. We know not to be true, not to be our experience. How do we reconcile that, friends and relatives? Despite the headlines, despite the column inches that we have seen in recent years, reconciliation has yet to arrive. And sometimes when I'm going around talking to Canadians, it's as if this work is already done. that we can move on to more pressing issues. As if Canadians don't remember that reconciliation is earned. Reconciliation is not a given. It is earned through word and through deed. Niwakumaga and my relatives, Canada has not earned it yet. I think about the future for Adonis. I think about the future for all of these young people who are in the crowd today, who are expressing leadership in their own communities through a variety of ways, expressing leadership for continuing in school, expressing leadership for sitting in ceremony, listening to our elders and our knowledge keepers remember who we are, that we are blessed with skin stained of earth, and what a gift that truly is. Niwakumaga, my relatives, talking to the beautiful Indigenous youth who are in this crowd, I ask you to remember that reconciliation, so as important as it is for Canada to work towards. And for you, friends and relatives, it is incumbent upon us to do that hard work of nation rebuilding, getting back what was taken from us. Papikskwe Nehewe, when speaking your language, returning to the land, seeking out who we are as Indigenous people. That work of decolonization is ours. And I think about Miopimatsuin, that good life. Yeah, it's more than just my gym, it's the philosophical way that Indigenous people live. I often wonder, and I found myself wondering this morning, when Adonis is 27, the age that I am now, will we be closer as a country to living that Miopimatsuin, living that good life, thinking about how better off Canada would be if we did. Friends and relatives, that 7 minutes went by very quickly. I'll leave you with one call to action. To the Canadians in the room, talk to a young person about reconciliation. Talk to someone in your life who you know who can talk about this work with you. And don't leave the heavy lifting to us. This work is incumbent upon all of us. Nipinanaskmun.
Don't say Marg Anak. Wow, welcome. My sacred name is Bald Eagle Woman Who Leads. I'm happy to be here with you today as an 82-year-old Cree grandmother. It brings me such joy to share knowledge in hopes of a brighter future. I believe that we can predict the future if we follow the path that has been laid out for us. Here's what I want to share with you today. When I was a young child, I was raised by my grandparents, great-grandparents, and extended family. Times were tough, but we always had each other to lean on. We all knew our rightful place in the cycle of life and respected our environment, each other, and every living being. We were taught everything in creation is there for a purpose, and we lived according to the natural laws. My great-granny often spoke of her grandparents who shared stories about their lives when they were young with her. Kokum, my great-granny, said it used to be like the Garden of Eden upon the planet prior to invasion. There were no fences or borders. She stressed the people lived in peace and harmony with each other, the four-legged, the winged ones, and the little beings that crawl upon the planet. Creator provided all that we needed to live in a good way. People took care of each other as each individual was dependent upon the other for survival. I have many fond memories of a peaceful coexistence and ways of being. These knowledge keepers, medicine folks, storytellers, ceremonialists are now far and few between. It is my hope that our current young people will take upon these responsibilities to ensure the cycle of life continues in a good way. Before I came here today, I spent time in ceremony and prepared myself appropriately in a spiritual, ceremonial way so that I could bring sacred space to share with you. My predictions for the future, and please keep your hearts and minds open to this message. There are generations of ancestors behind us all. All the previous knowledge is what aids us in predicting the future. It is time to listen. The teachings of the TP, it's like living in balance with Mother Earth, Father Sky, Grandfather Sun, Grandmother Moon, and all our relatives. And I think everyone in this room today can say that we can emulate these values with one heart, one mind, and one spirit. With colonization, we were introduced to a new world, a world of separation which brought devastation to our communities and leaves us at a critical point in our lives today. It is difficult to watch or listen to the news as violence, racism, pollution, and toxic attitudes and behavior have become the norm. Instead of building walls, we must come to a way of understanding and valuing each other. Our teachings give us a way forward as a collective thought. We must learn to love and value each other, respect every living entity, always speak your truth, be honest at all times, have courage to challenge the system in a good way. Share your story as you are worthy, be humble at all times, and seek wisdom. The TP teachings to me are really what has kept me going in my life, and I really am happy that we're able to share all these values as a collective. We must work together, and we have a legal and moral ethical framework as a starting point. The United Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. Here we see authority that our ancestral knowledge holds to protect our future. This also speaks to the understanding that non-Indigenous people must also have to support and be shared accomplices for all our futures. The medicine wheel speaks to our being in body, mind, emotions, and spirit to ensure that we're always balanced spiritually, to meditate, to feed your spirit, emotionally, to be in balance, and to look after your body and that whole body, mind, emotion, and spirit to be balanced at all times. It can be easy to get bogged down and by the enormity of the TRC calls to action and wonder, where can I make an impact? We have to view reconciliation as a relationship. In the final report, the TRC laid out the principles for reconciliation, which is truly the first step to understand and to practice. A reconciliation framework is one in which Canada's political legal systems, educational and religious institutions, corporate sector, and civil society function in ways that are consistent with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, which Canada has endorsed. The Commission believes the guiding principles of truth and reconciliation will assist Canadians moving forward. It is about honoring and protecting the knowledge and sacrifices of our ancestors and our responsibility to teach, to share, and protect our future generations in which we have a deep connection to. If we were all aware of this reciprocal relationship to the past and the future, then we are taking care of the cycle of life in an active way. Hai hai naskum nawa, all my relations.
Ani bojo tanchekiwao mishen dengwe ankwat kwa indigenous kaz pak jahansi ndonjiba mamawe ne nishnabe king ndonji makwando dam. Hello everybody, my name is Gabrielle Fea. My family comes from Fishing Lake Métis settlement in Alberta. So at a grassroots level, I am the co-founder and co-CEO of a youth-led, youth-driven, nonprofit organization called Assembly of Seven Generations, also known as A7G. A7G has been doing youth-led, community-based work since 2014. So we've come a long way. This is one of our first posters and programs that we ever worked on. And so the first slide was the logo that we have now that was created by a young Anishinaabe artist. And so back then, you could just see like our little logo over there was literally just like blue text. So I'm happy of like the work we've accomplished since 2014. So we've been doing annual elders and youth gatherings. We've been doing annual round dances, which really help bring the community together in a good way. We also meet as Indigenous youth every Friday. We have weekly youth drop-ins. So this is one of the ways that we look out for one another, we learn from one another, and we take care of one another. We create group norms to help guide our gatherings and events in a respectful way. And this also helps hold us accountable of each other. We do all of this work as volunteers with no salaries and no core funding. So in addition to this work I do on the grassroots with my colleagues, I was also appointed as a special youth advisor to Minister Carolyn Bennett in 2017 to work on the implementation of TRC Call to Action 66. Call to Action 66 reads, "We call upon the federal government to establish multi-year funding for community-based youth organizations to deliver programs on reconciliation and establish a national network to share information and best practices." During that time, we spoke to Indigenous youth across the country. Over 500 Indigenous youth shared their stories with us and concerns with us as well. So here are some of the things that they told us. We have the weight of the trauma of the generation that came before us. We are a bridge generation to open the door for the ones that are coming so that they don't have to struggle to survive by fighting. They can grow up with their culture and choose who they want to be without the fight. Under the name Indigenous Youth Voices, with the help of a team of Indigenous youth as well, we created the roadmap on the implementation of TRC Call to Action 66. In the roadmap, we came to conclude two major requirements. One, IY Indigenous Youth Voices as a national nonprofit organization to create work on areas such as youth-led research and community capacity building. And two, a fund developed in partnership with Indigenous Youth Voices to provide multi-year funding for Indigenous youth across the country. So throughout my slide, I'm going to share with you some of the quotes that the youth told us. This is another one. It is my hope that TRC 66 is implemented so communities can support Indigenous youth in achieving their desired levels of self-determination rooted in the types of programs they desire. With whether it is language training, a safe place to hang out, cultural knowledge hubs, or community gatherings. I wish for these programs to be sustainable and long-lasting in a legacy way for people at the community level. So right now, there's currently no youth funding that exists to support Indigenous youth at a core level. However, we are doing the work in spite of this all. So we are filmmakers and storytellers. We are building healthy communities and revitalizing culture and ceremonies. We are speaking out and educating the masses. We are doing peer-to-peer support and breaking barriers. We're reclaiming spaces and taking on leadership roles. We are the past, the present, and the future. We are program developers and nation builders. We are healing our circles and welcoming people back. In this time of reconciliation, Indigenous youth should not be doing this work alone. The day that I can see Indigenous youth achieve the standard of living and the quality of life that is enjoyed by the rest of Canadian society and its youth is when I will believe reconciliation has been achieved. So feel free to follow our grassroots work on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Our website is www.a7g.ca. As well, follow some of that policy level work and national work, Indigenous Youth Voices on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, www.indigenousyouthvoices.com. Please visit our website and read our roadmap on the implementation of TRC Call to Action 66. And also reach out to your local MPs and ask them to implement TRC 66. Miigwech, hi.
Amo atuno, okano nin wichishpa bar eo yarige chubby. Tatanka wagichi wacha togonaka e tancha mi gibich. Ambane wastich. I just wanted to say hello and welcome. This is a beautiful day today for the Stoney Nakoda Nation. We call this place Wachishpa, which is talking about a young man's elbow, referring to the Elbow River and also where the two rivers meet. My name is Tatanka Wagichi, which is my grandfather's name, and means dancing buffalo in our language. And for me, I'm a young leader. I'm getting a little old now. But I'm a dancer, a singer, a father, and I love to do art, and I love to, now I really like to share and talk and speak from my heart. And that's another name that was given to me. I was adopted, me and my wife, by a family down in Rosebud, South Dakota. And they named me Wacha Toganaka Itancha, which means the one that follows, or the one that leads with his heart. And to me, that's pretty much what I have done in my lifetime. Since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to dance. I've always wanted to sing, and nothing stopped me from that. I had a family that helped me to put an outfit together with glue, duct tape, and some pins. So I wasn't the sharpest dancer on the dance floor. But eventually, with the help of friends on the powwow trail, with the help of family, that regalia started to, become a very, you would say a very traditional, very authentic outfit that I'm really proud of, that my brother, Gentle Grizzly, made for me when I turned 18. And for me, I was able to travel the world. I was able to go to many countries and volunteer my time. And the reason why I did that, there's a couple reasons. I was in high school in Morley, 2010, and I graduated, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get off the res and see the world for myself. And the other reason was that the year 2012 was coming, and I was thinking, the world's gonna end, and I gotta get out there. I gotta see this world before it's gone. But the other reason was that, following my heart, I always had this passion to get out and to see the world, but also bring back that knowledge to my community, share with others what it was like to be in Africa or in Peru, be able to share these gifts that I was able to put myself in, being in Africa, sleeping in my own sweat, being in Peru where there was no one that spoke English, and challenging myself. And I had a belief about myself that really grew, and of course it was challenging and tough coming from the res. And I got along more with people from other countries than I did with my own citizens in Canada. And so I really learned a lot about myself and who I am and where I come from. And so when I came home, after traveling, being able to volunteer, I often think about this perspective that we say, the Tatanka, the buffalo, and how he volunteered, amongst the animal nation. When we as human beings didn't know how to live on earth, the buffalo was asked by the animal nation to come forth to help, our people here on earth. And the buffalo, of course, they were all looking at each other. The otter was looking at the ferret, eagle was looking at hawk, and the coyote was looking at wolf. And the buffalo stepped forward, and he said, I'll volunteer, and you can use all my parts. To eat, to provide food, shelter, clothing, for spiritual healing as well. And so that was kind of what my beliefs and intentions were, was to have this perspective of what my ancestors thought. Today, I call, my vehicle my horse. I have a nice black truck, and I call him Heisapa, which is Black Hills, and he brings me everywhere. My brothers, I talk about them through their traditional names, like Gentle Grizzly, their skinny horse, and longtime pipe holder, both a part of the Blackfoot and Stoney Nakoda. But being able to, look at today's world from our ancestors is very tough, but they say when you do that, that's when you're able to understand the challenges that are before us. And so when I did this, I kind of came home, and, they say that, there's a ceremony where we go out and go, into the bush, and we're able to learn this knowledge that will help us ground ourselves in our community, and you bring it back. Long time ago, we would just go into the bush, not too far, and we would get this knowledge, but today we got planes and vehicles, so being able to travel to another country is now what I interpret as being a part of that ceremony, becoming of age, this new knowledge that you bring home, and that idea of we have to look at it from our ancestors' perspective, but also continue to overcome these challenges that are before us, and that saying of us often living in two different worlds, and dancing in between like the trickster, shape-shifting back and forth. And that's what, I see all these young people, you guys are all very talented and skilled to be able to do that, to be able to balance, these lives that are made for us now, and being able to be that leader for your family and for yourself. So when I came home, I wanted to contribute and give back to my community, and one of them was just getting this group of youth together, known as the Nakota Youth Council, and the idea was just to bring some youth together and see what we can do in the community to volunteer and give back. And what ended up happening was something beautiful. They say I'm a co-founder, but I just feel like I was the one that just helped to get us together. And I don't see myself as that, that idea that we're all related and that no one is better than who you are, that smallest insect that's outside under the smallest rock. I'm no greater than that insect, and that belief, that our ancestors have. Continuing to hold that strong to yourself as who you are and where you come from. And with this youth group, we were able to, grassroots, just like the last speaker, we didn't have, funding, didn't have any salaries, but we were able to tell our story. We can tell we had a belief about ourselves, we had intentions to do great things, and we were able as a group to travel to the United Nations in New York and be able to be a part of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues. And in a way, these young people got to experience their first, journey out into the world, and culture shock, those challenges, and they brought that back, and now they're doing wonderful things in their community. that idea of looking from your ancestors' perspective, is truly an important role to have. Following your heart is really important, and that's all I did was follow my heart, and it's bringing me to beautiful places to meet beautiful people like yourselves. So with that, I just wanted to share that importance of looking from your ancestors' perspective, carrying that forward, and continuing to follow your heart, because that's what matters. Balancing that with your mind and your heart, because that's definitely what makes changes small, but they become greater and bigger. So with that, I'm going to have to say thank you, Ishniesh. 7 minutes, like Max said, is not a lot of time. So I'll say thank you, and look forward to getting to meet you all. Hope.
Hi everyone, my name is Ava Grayeyes, and I'm a 16-year-old from Toronto. I'm an actor, dancer, grade 11 student, and Shad Fellow. I'm also Nehiyaw from Muskeg Lake Cree Nation, and it is something that I'm very proud of. And saying that now means a lot, because for the longest time, I didn't feel that way. To be honest, I grew up feeling very detached from my culture. I wasn't really sure of who I was because I didn't feel like I was part of my community. You see, the only Indigenous people I knew growing up were my close family members on my dad's side and some of his colleagues. I've never gone to school with another Indigenous person who was my age. I remember in elementary school, kids would laugh at the illustrations of Indians running around in the pages of our history textbooks, and I remember sitting there uncomfortably, not saying anything, wondering if they knew that I was First Nations, and wondering if they thought that that was a cool thing to be. So when I was younger, it wasn't ever something that I really valued. I think the experience that pretty much sums up my feelings was during the first week of grade 9 for me. I was at a massive public high school in Toronto, and it was the very first class of our Aboriginal arts course. And I remember this moment so clearly. The teacher looks around the room and asks if anyone in here is actually Native. And so I raised my hand up in the air high because I am, and expecting to see some others, and it was just me, alone, with my hand up. But how, in that class specifically for Indigenous art, and even in that diverse school of 2,000 teenagers, was I not able to find another person like me? But soon, thankfully, all those feelings were completely washed away, and in the past 3 years of my life, there have been a couple of crucial moments that have changed who I am and who I want to become. Several people in here might know me from my supporting role in the 2017 feature film Indian Horse. I was cast in Indian Horse in the same month that I started high school. When I say this film changed my life, it is in no way an exaggeration, because it was so much more than just being in a movie. I was excited to be in a film that was important representation of Indigenous history, and excited to become an actor, which is my dream career. The experience of being on set, though, during the filming was the best possible thing that could have happened to me. I met so many other Indigenous youth and became good friends with my fellow cast members. I was finally hanging around with other Indigenous kids my age, and in a way, it felt like I had been reconnected, not like I was on the outside looking in. After Indian Horse, so many opportunities opened up to me. I began to speak on panels about the film. I was more interested and invested in my community, and it started to just become a part of me, something that I cared deeply about. Indian Horse started for me back in grade 9, but I still go to screenings and talk about my work now in the film over 2 years later. Now, I wanted to base this talk about my experience with the arts. My belief is that art is important in shaping the future and spreading change by inspiring people. I love all types of art, and I'm so grateful to have spent my life surrounded by it due to my family's careers. There are so many voices that can be amplified by art, and a key example of this is storytelling through film. Representation in Hollywood is so important, and most people don't realize that. In Hollywood, Indigenous people are like an invisible race. There's been huge improvements in diversity, but sometimes it still feels like that diversity does not extend to us fully. Most of the times, representation comes down to stereotypes of the past, and the three-dimensional characters of the future are ignored. And a lot of the times, it feels like we're struggling just to be seen as people of the present, not as a group that was wiped out by the past. We are still here, Today, there aren't enough Indigenous perspectives and stories being told, and there aren't enough Indigenous actors and directors and screenwriters to tell them. There are so many amazing Indigenous stories, but in the grand scheme of the business, they are sadly overlooked. People don't care enough about them, and that's what makes us invisible. A couple of months ago, I spoke on a panel about inclusion and diversity in STEM, and one of the other speakers said something I'll never forget. He said, "Diversity is a statistic, inclusion is something that you feel." Just looking up at a screen and seeing someone like you up there, that is the feeling of inclusion. My dad started acting because he saw Indigenous people up on the movie theater screens, and then I guess I started acting because it was the coolest thing in my world to see him up on that screen too. Of course, I would love to become an actor, but that would only be a career. Who I want to be outside of that is another question entirely. So I've asked myself many times, who do you want to be? And especially with university applications looming in the distance, everybody asks me all the time. The answer is that I still don't know, but I do know one thing. I want to become a leader, and I want to create positive change. It's something that I was made sure of when I went to SHAD, which was a summer program for teens. It focused on leadership and collaboration, entrepreneurship, and STEM. Because of SHAD, I was a panelist back in November at the Canadian Science Policy Conference, and they let me publish an editorial piece on their website. There, I was able to express my thoughts on education for Indigenous people in Canada. It was an opportunity to share my opinion on an issue that was really important to me. So regardless of what I do in the future, I want to be able to have an impact and for people to hear my voice. Ultimately, I feel like Canada is looking for an answer, and I don't believe we are going to find it solely through reconciliation. Recently, I learned of and also started believing in the concept of resurgence, which is working towards rebuilding our culture and coming back stronger in the future, rather than focusing on the past. Today, Indigenous leadership is what gives me hope that our culture will resurge. More chances for Indigenous people to become these leaders is what Canada needs. This is what I believe to be resurgence. Resurgence is opportunity. Having opportunities available to you, no matter whether it's for actors to see more Indigenous characters in Hollywood, or for students to have equal access to education, or for everyone to have an access to language and culture, and just being able to have your voice heard on the opinions and topics that matter. Just seeing events like this, listening to people who really inspire me speak, and being surrounded by people who support this leadership and resurgence of our people. Unlike that day in the art classroom with my hand raised, I feel like I'm not alone anymore. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jesse. I'm a Métis Creve from Saskatchewan, and I'm a storyteller. I know I'm an academic by trade, Trudeau Vanier scholar, but really what I am is a storyteller. So what I'm going to do is share a story that I've written, and hopefully you'll learn a little bit about my life and why I'm here. They were your elders. I remember sleeping in my buddy's car alongside of the banks of the Fraser River in New Westminster in British Columbia. The two of us had been there for a few months in winter in 1997. Winter in Vancouver, despite what people think, can be quite cold and damp. I slept in the back seat, he stayed in the front. My time in that car are some of the worst and best memories of my life. And I hope that my little story today will shed some light on why that is. I was raised in Brampton by my white grandparents after my Métis Cree family in Saskatchewan couldn't, and growing up without any sense of my Indigenous identity led to some pretty poor choices by the time I was 20. I was wild. I partied all the time. One day my grandparents had had enough and kicked me out. Then they banned me from ever going back home. I thought Vancouver would be a great place to start over, away from my addictions and the damage I'd caused everyone back home. So off I ran. Little did I know that Vancouver is the epicenter of street life in Canada. It can be argued that it's the most dangerous place in North America if you're Native, addicted, and lost. Within weeks of living in that car, I wasted down to nothing. I was 6'2", 140 pounds, and a walking skeleton. I didn't know anything or anybody, where to get food, shower, ask for help, and I couldn't shoplift because I looked like a street person, and floor walkers followed me wherever I went. But the chill in my bones was the worst. At night, while trying to sleep, my back and legs would ache from the cold and the condensation of our breath. I was folded up like an accordion across the back seat, my feet rammed into the side windows, trying to stretch out. Sometimes my face would press against the door handle, and I'd wake up with a circle on my cheek or on my forehead, and the imprint remained there for days. Other times I wouldn't sleep at all. I'd just lie there with my eyes open, shivering and wondering why God, Creator, Allah, the universe, whatever you want to call it, had abandoned me. I remember wishing I could go home, but I couldn't. The only good thing was the back window of the car. It was like my television. I'd watch every night as the clouds rolled by, blotting out Grandmother Moon as she smiled down on me from her place high above. The constellation of stars, too, seemed to twinkle and wink at me as they glowed bright into their millions. And the comets raced by, waving at me, then falling off one by one in the direction of the Pacific Ocean. Those frigid nights seemed to last forever in the back seat. And as I watched the celestial heavens in all their glory, I prayed. I prayed for a home, for a future, and for the light of day. Without fail, the sun would crest over the eastern mountaintops right when it was coldest, right when I couldn't take it anymore, right when all hope of warmth seemed lost. And when those morning rays hit my face and warmed my spirit, I knew I'd earned the daylight. I knew I'd earned my right to live. I knew I'd earned my tiny spot in creation. I've never forgotten how triumphant that felt, and I doubt I ever will. Years later, after I'd gotten sober off the streets and found my way to university, I met a Métis Cree elder. I'll never forget what she told me in her kitchen one day. I sat with her and I started complaining about my time in the car by the river, the pain, the cold, the loneliness, the bent bones, the heartbreak. I knew she had a similar story of homelessness in her youth, and I thought we might be able to connect that way, by bitching about the hardships of street life. Halfway through my story, she interrupted me. "How dare you?" she said as she put her tea down and looked me right in the eye. She seemed quite upset. I was confused. What did I say? I didn't know. She let me sit there for a few minutes to let it percolate, like elders do, but I couldn't figure it out. Finally, she said, "Don't you see, Jesse? Addictions, homelessness, loneliness, loss of identity, they were your real elders. They taught you how important love is, how important family are, how important food and shelter are, and you got to see the stars and moon in ways that most today will never take the time to see them, in all their splendor and beauty. But beyond all that, your elders taught you the value of sunlight and that each day is a blessing, and they gave you a real sense of belonging within creation. Those, my child, are priceless lessons." With these words, my elder changed my perspective from resentful to thankful. She got me to see that sometimes we go through rough times to learn valuable teachings so we can go on and share them with others, just as I have shared with you all today. It is my hope that I've helped some of you see that my time in the car, it wasn't all bad. It was just the path I had to walk so I could learn and eventually help people in my work today in the homeless sector. And it is my hope that you will see the light as I now see it, as a gift, a promise, a daily affirmation that we all have a purpose and the right to exist, either bathing together in the glory of the morning sunlight or stargazing alone out the back window of an old car under the watchful eye of Grandmother Moon. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you all very, very much. Please join me in thanking Max Finday, Doreen Spence, Gabrielle Fea, Daryl Kootenay, Ava Grayeyes, and Jessie Thistle. They're standing up. Thank you again, Elder Paul Daniels. And I hope you will all join me in welcoming from our presenting sponsor, the Executive Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer, our friend Eric Axford.
Wow, that is quite a jam-packed hour. I think everybody did stick to their 7 minutes, but what a bunch of stories. I just want to thank everyone here. First, it's wonderful to be here on Treaty 7 lands and celebrating youth leadership this way. It's been a real pleasure to be a part of this. We've had a long partnership with the Walrus, and Suncor has actually been a sponsor of these talks for many, many years now. So I've not been at 104 of these, Shelley, but I've been to about 6 or 8, and they always are very provocative, get the right conversations going, and the most important part of the evening we found is always the reception afterwards to talk about some of the things you've heard, meet some of the people you've seen, and actually explore the conversation further. So really encourage everyone to do that. Really a wonderful set of speakers. I won't try and summarize or repeat what you've said. You've just really set the tone about everything from reconciliation being about more than talk, but important to actually practice, and that reconciliation is earned. That was something I thought was a powerful sentiment. The constant comment on multi-generational and intergenerational and ancestral importance in all of your stories was just very, very powerful, and I think a huge learning and lesson for all of us that often get trapped in the myopia of our own generation or our own daily lives. So thank you for those lessons. Speaking from the heart was a message I think each and every one of you gave, the authenticity of your message and speaking from the heart, whether that's about how art inspires people, honesty, integrity, the values and principles of the culture are just universal, and that every and each day is a blessing for all of us. What a simple but wonderful thought. I had the real pleasure today, Suncor, together with a whole bunch of young Aboriginal leaders, has started an Indigenous Youth Advisory Council, and I had the good honor of actually participating in a pipe ceremony, and these young leaders are all here today. Indeed, Daryl Kootenay is one of those on our Youth Advisory Council, but one thing that I really took away from the ceremony, which was just hugely emotional and powerful for all of us, was just the fact that it's an absolutely beautiful day. You must enjoy every single day, and we said that often, and I tell you what all of us were learning from the actual youth in the room was just awesome. Also proud to be a sponsor of the whole Inspire events that you mentioned upcoming, and we're here partly in celebration of that as well. Suncor's been a 20-year sponsor of Inspire, and we've got a lot of some of the, I think, recipients, but also a bunch of the youth that are participating in that here today as well. So really wonderful to do that and celebrate just all of the hope and optimism of Indigenous culture in this country. And I just want to thank you all for your stories. I know on behalf of everyone here, you've inspired all of us, and look forward to the conversations in the hallway outside. It's been a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Suncor, for all that you do. Suncor is, as Eric said, along with TD and others, a sponsor of the Inspire Awards to be held Friday night at the Jubilee Auditorium. Suncor is also a big sponsor of the Banff Centre, which is also a partner of the Walrus, so all of this is working very well. If I'm going to hold the audience just for maybe a minute and 37 seconds while I set the speakers free. You too. Take Paul Daniels with you. I am sending them off out to the reception first, so you don't do that weird thing that people do and try to talk to them and trap them in the front row so they can't, get a drink or go to the bathroom. So this is when we can clap again. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. So as I mentioned, tonight is our 104th Walrus Talks. That means there are now more than 700 7-minute Walrus Talkers on our YouTube channel. So when you're having your tea in the morning and you have 7 minutes, just watch one. They talk about everything. We've talked about water, energy, human rights, the North, the South, the East, the Indigenous city, sustainability, humor, culture, art. We've had talks on virtually every topic you can think of. So please head to thewalrus.ca and have yourself 7 minutes of fun. You can also subscribe to the Walrus there. Yes, you can. It's so easy. But the easiest thing to do is to subscribe to the magazine tonight at our table out there. It's $25. That's it. 10 issues a year. I practically deliver it to your door myself. Like, seriously. And while you're there, you can meet the Walrus team, and you can also sign up for our newsletters that come to your inbox, and you'll never have to miss a Walrus Talks ever again. We are all over the country, so you don't have to be in Calgary. We go everywhere. There's also at our table an opportunity to learn about the Future City Builders program, which supports youth to develop the skills needed to lead and build resilient cities. So this initiative is led by Evergreen and Youthful Cities, and they're looking for 150 youth to join the program in Calgary, Vancouver, Hamilton, Toronto, and Halifax. So those of you there's 150 of you here, let's just get this done. Just go apply at the table tonight, and then I don't have to say this out loud when I'm in Halifax. We can have everybody come from tonight. So I want to thank everyone who's here from Suncor. I want to thank our national partners at Inspire, Shaw, TD, and Labatt. And I hope that you will all join us at the reception where there is food, there is drink, and if you are there, there will be great conversation, because as I tell everyone, the truth is, we are not the Walrus. You are the Walrus. Thank you. Merci. Megwitch. Safe home.